All right, in today's video, we're going to talk about alkane nomenclature. And there are some basic rules that we'll need to talk about. The first one I've demonstrated or put over here on the side of the board. The number of carbons in a compound is going to help you name and identify different parts based on the following prefixes. So if you have 1 carbon, it's meth, 2 is eth, 3 prop, 4 is but, not but, by the way, pent, hex, hept, oct, non, and dec. So let's do an example of naming a simple alkane molecule. All right, so here's going to be our molecule. And remember, in the line angle drawing that we talked about in a previous video, any end of a line or change in direction of a line represents a carbon with its associated hydrogens. All right, so the very first thing we need to do is identify the carbon chain that has the longest continuous carbon chain. So in this case, that would be this carbon chain here. Now I could have also drawn it this way, but you'll notice that that would have the same number of carbons. It would have 5. So I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the first step, is identifying the longest continuous carbon chain. The next step, we want to number the carbons in the chain such that we give any branches coming off the chain a lower number. So notice in this chain I have 5 carbons. I could potentially number it over here, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but that would give this branch a higher number. So the correct numbering would be this: 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, so now we're going to name that parent chain using the prefixes for the appropriate number of carbons. So since I have 5, there's going to be pent. And since we're talking about alkanes, okay, which are saturated hydrocarbons, the ending is always going to be ane. So that's the suffix that's going to be applied. So we now combine the appropriate prefix with the suffix. So our parent chain, as this is called, is going to be pentane. Now we have to also identify any branches that come off of the main chain. Branches are typically named with a suffix YL, or for an alkyl group. So in this case, since we have a single carbon, the prefix is meth, we'll end that prefix with a YL ending because it's now a methyl group. It's a branch coming off with 1 carbon. So this would be methyl. So if I just said methylpentane, I'd be pretty close to being done with my name. However, because I've now numbered this and showed that the branch is coming off carbon 2, I can now just put a number 2 in front of that to indicate that carbon 2 of the main chain is where the methyl group is coming off. All right, so to summarize again, main points here. First step, identify the longest continuous carbon chain. Second, number the chain to give the branches the lowest possible number. Then you write the main chain's name using the appropriate prefix, and then you'll add on alkane. And then lastly, you tack on any branches that come off in terms of, like if this one has a methyl group or whatever it is, it's going to have a number associated with it, and then you put that in the front part of the name. So let's just do one more example before we move on. Okay, let's look at this one. Now here, my longest continuous carbon chain is going to be this one. But you'll notice the way that I've drawn it, we're going to not want to start numbering on this end. We'll actually want to start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, as you might imagine, since it's got 6 carbons, our prefix is hex. This is going to be a hexane. And since I have a methyl group coming off the 3 position, it would be 3-methyl hexane. One final point, you'll notice that I do have a little hyphen here. There's sort of a general rule when you name compounds, you separate numbers and letters with a hyphen. So maybe put that in your notes as well. All right, so in this compound, let's take a look and see if we can identify the longest continuous carbon chain. So if I look from left to right, and our eyes are often drawn that way to look at these left to right, let's count the number of carbons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that would be an octane. But let's also just verify there's not some other longer chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That would be a heptane. That's shorter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's also a heptane. So definitely our longest continuous carbon chain is the one in the middle. Then we're going to have to list these substituents a little bit differently, because notice this would be a methyl substituent. It has a single carbon, but this is actually an ethyl group. Okay, kind of like my Aunt Ethel. I love that name, Ethel. All right, so if we number our carbon chain to give any branches the lowest number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, you'll see that we're going to have a 3-methyl group and a 4-ethyl group. So how do we list these? Well, in the IUPAC nomenclature, we always list things alphabetically. So actually the ethyl group is going to come first in the name, even though it has a higher number, and then the methyl, because it starts with M, would come next. So the complete name for this one would be 4-ethyl, 3-methyl, and then again it's got 8 carbons, so this would be octane. All right, so this compound, we're going to apply the same basic rules. We need to find and identify the longest continuous carbon chain. So looking at this one, it's actually this chain here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You do want to verify this just to make sure. This chain would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's only an octane. If I went here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that would only be a nonane. So coming up here, this would be the appropriate numbering. Now notice I have actually 3 methyl groups. They're all the same, but 2 of the methyl groups are coming off carbon 3. 1 of the methyl groups is coming off carbon 6. So how are we going to list that? Well, that would be listed as a 3, 3, 6 trimethyl. And then we would have our 5-ethyl group. So in terms of numbering this, this would be 5-ethyl. Oops, not EY, but 5-ethyl. And then 3, 3, 6 trimethyl. And then because it's got 10 carbons, it's going to be a decane. Now, one important last point here. When it comes to alphabetization, we look at the letters of the substituent. So ethyl and methyl is what we're considering. The tri or di or tetra prefix in front of the substituents doesn't count for alphabetization when we do these sorts of problems. So I hope that helps with alkane nomenclature. Good luck.